Here's a quote. I'll just start spitting out quotes to you. You can write this one down. You're not good at it yet. You're not good at it yet. Zero is a great place to start. And that's why repetition. Successful men do daily. Successful men do daily what unsuccessful men do occasionally. Successful men do daily what unsuccessful men do occasionally. And again, just going with the theme of repetition. One of the issues with most of us before we get here is that we are very random. We have no consistency. And everything, anything, everything will get us out of rhythm.
Say that one more time.
One of the issues that we all have before we get here is that we're all random and we're inconsistent. And anything and everything will get us out of rhythm. We get into a rhythm, we get into a good routine, and something comes along. Boom, there it goes, out the window. And you're always starting over. You're always at start. It's better to be consistent than it is to be gifted, talented, lucky, any of those other words that might seem a little bit sexier or glamorous or thrilling. Consistency beats them all. You should simplify your life and have, like John Maxwell teaches, you should have 5 things. 5 things. 5 things that you do consistently. That you're on time consistently. Or whatever. Whatever. 5 things. Doesn't matter what they are. John Maxwell says, I'll just name off some of his 5 things. By the way, John Maxwell is probably one of the most prolific authors. He's written more books on leadership and personal growth and development probably than anybody else. And so his 5 things is he's like, every day I write. How is it that he's written, 50 some best-selling books? Because every day he writes. Every day. Every day he'll spend, if it's a half an hour or 45 minutes, every day he writes something. Every day he compiles, he collects, he files. So if you've ever read any of his books are just filled with little stories, anecdotes, other quotes, and things like that. But you know where he gets them all? Every day he collects, 2 or 3 things. Every day something I do. I mean, the reason why I have all these quotes is because every day I go in search of them. Every day I'm looking, I'm tuning my ears to pick up on wisdom. I love wisdom. So wisdom is something that I seek every day. Every day. Every day. I will, if I'm listening to something, I'm going to pause it. I'm going to be, I got to write that down. I collect it and I file it. So last night I was listening to an interview with Brian Houston, who is the leader of Hillsong. Any of you might not know any of that, but he's was the first mega church in Australia, had like 10,000 people, and then had a Bible school. And anyways, now he's all over the world. One of the things recently he's known for is one of his prodigies was Carl Lentz, who had Hillsong in New York City, who was the pastor to all like the stars. He was, who was it? Justin Bieber got born again, and so he was, Carl Lentz was Justin Bieber's pastor, but he let Hollywood go to his head and had an affair and blah, 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 and everything. Now he's out of the ministry. But regardless, anyways. So this interview with Brian Houston, and he was talking about how do you raise up leaders. It was kind of question and answer. And they were like, how do you raise up leaders? And like, how do you, they were talking about, how do you choose who gets close to you, and how do you choose who you're going to develop? All right. And I'm listening to that. Let me go to my notes, and I just had to pause it. I was like, wow. And he said this quote, and write it down. People that are close to me, they're there because they behaved their way there. They behaved their way there. Now that's not mean like a child behave. Everybody is behaving every day. The question is, how are you behaving? Are you behaving in a way that is like, I expect certain people will expect a certain behavior, and if you don't behave that way, you're not going to be in their life. Listen, when you go over to your buddy's house, if you act like a Christian and they're smoking weed and drinking beers guess what? You're not going to be close to them. You're going to behave your way out of there, or you're going to behave your way close. Do you understand?
I mean, that's like a lot of meat right there.
You behave your way into a room, and you behave your way out of a room.
Then why people try to make it a thing that they must be awarded to do something? This kind of blends into your question, and I had it in mind too, from what you was just talking about through this sentence. I know I wasn't with you Sunday when you was talking about the awards from your Heavenly Father. I was helping with children's church, but what I had in mind with that too, which goes into this, then why do people why do people feel like they have to be awarded to be in a certain place or to do a certain thing? Like what you're talking about, like a certain way you behave when you come here. But why do people feel this thing of, if I clean the floor, I have to be awarded to clean the floor.
Yeah.
If not, then it goes back to what you was just saying.
No, but what happens is that the universe and the environment is the universe is always looking. So there's only three things that can happen to you in an environment. Okay? Any environment. You're coming in, you're staying, or you're leaving. It's one of those three things. You're coming in, you're staying, or you're leaving. And behavior will dictate every single one of those. Whether you come in, whether the door opens to you, it's based on your behavior. Most people are in a room or in an environment because they've been invited there by somebody else who is already occupying that space. You don't come into environments, in most cases, most environments are closed off. Most environments have a certain behavior. Like I said, I've sat in a courtroom and had the bailiff come back and tell me that I got to take my glasses off my head, spit out my gum. It's like in that environment, there's a certain behavior. There's a certain protocol. There's a certain way you're supposed to act. The playground has rules. The classroom has rules. They might be unspoken. They're not written above the thing, but trust me, if you've ever gone to the playground and got run off the basketball court because the people that were running the court, like, it's not how we do it here. It's like call your own fouls, but everybody knows that you don't call cheap stuff. Everybody knows that there's a set of rules, and you will be either invited back or asked to be on the next team, on the next game. Even if you lost, if you behave a certain way, you're probably going to get asked to stay, or you might get asked to leave. Even on the playground, you behave your way into every room. And that room and those people, and there's always a manager, there's always a hierarchy, there's always authority in the room. There's always an an unspoken rule that rules the environment. You go into Walmart, there's not a sign above the door that says, pay before you leave. But everybody knows you better pay before you leave. Right? You know that. That's the rule when you come in. You can't just walk out with what you want without paying. And there's a manager, and then there's levels of people who make sure that rule, even though it's not written on the walls when you come in, there's people that are there to enforce it. Just like I said, if you go to the back deck and they're smoking weed and drinking beer and everything, and you don't want to be down with that, trust me, there'll be somebody that'll be like, get out of here. This is my domain. We don't want no snitches. We don't want no Jesus. We don't want no whatever they want to say, So you're either coming, you're going, or you're staying. Somewhere. And you're going to behave your way the whole way. You're either going to graduate 5th grade or you're going to get expelled from 5th grade. And you can stay for a certain amount of time. Right? If you follow the rules and the protocol. And then 12th grade is a different thing. College is a different thing. Everything is a space. So you go to your job. There's a whole list of things that you must do to be able to occupy and be in that environment. And if you don't, there's authority there that says you're fired, you're expelled. And then there's someone who invited you in to that space. That's literally everywhere you go. Literally everywhere you go. And like I say, it might not be, written, oh, that's a public space. Yeah, the coffee shop is a public space, but trust me, if you don't behave the way the expectation of the designer of that public space expects you to act, you'll be asked to leave. Right? Or you can be invited in by the same authority, by a friend, by other people who are, man, I didn't hear about this. I just found out about this place. Oh, who told you? Somebody invited you into the space. You come into the space. Wow, now you behave right. So listen, and it's the same way personally in your space. People have behaved their people that are next to you have behaved their way next to you, and you have allowed it, or you've actually co-signed or agreed to it. You cannot complain about their behavior. I see a lot of people in wrong relationships, and it's like, you chose it and you tolerated it, and a lot of people are like, oh, my girl, this or that, and it's like, so let me get this right. She picked you, or she, like, in the heat of, she's, in the heat of your drug addiction and everything like that, and you're unfaithful, you're lying, you're not a provider, you're not all this and that, and she is cool with that. What's that say about her? Huh? Real talk. Let's be real. What does she say? That she's managing an environment. She has control over her house or space or whatever, and that's okay behavior. No, it's like, come back when you change, and that's the attitude everybody needs to have. Like, love you, but you can't be in this space. You ain't going to occupy my space. Not with that behavior. You just behaved your way right out of my life. Or you can behave your way into my life. Oh, but what about love? Love is unconditional. Can I just tell you this? There is no such thing as unconditional love except for Christ. No, my mama, no, she doesn't. Your mama don't have unconditional love for you. Disrespect your mama enough, she'll tell you to step. Yes, she will. Is she going to let you rob her every day? Huh? And that ain't love. Anyways, that ain't love. Like, You got a warped sense of what love is. That's called, that person has a problem themselves. And I don't know if I'm talking about anybody's mama, but I'm just saying there's a dysfunction there. There's a level of dysfunction in the family when family members are okay with bad behavior, or when family members don't put certain limitations or expectations on behavior. It's not love. They don't understand the difference of correction. Correction is love. If I correct you, I love you. Write this down. There's a difference between correction and punishment.
Then why both parties get the two twisted? And the reason I say both parties, on the parent side, and I'm sure you see it on both parties, the parent side, I don't want to hit him because, whooping a child will lead you to jail. Or on the kid's side, it will be,
Well, the whooping is punishment, but correction is different. Correction is putting things in place and saying that is not the correct behavior. Here is the correct behavior. Let me teach you. And if you're teachable, then I can just teach you. If you're teachable, I can teach you without punishment. It's the person who's unteachable that receives punishment. Meaning you generally don't go to jail on a first offense. You get corrected, but the third and fourth time you show up in front of that judge, guess what? You have just proved that you're unteachable. That the first opportunity was a lesson. Should have been a lesson that you learned. The second, third, and fourth is that you're unteachable. Yeah, and you need a spanking. You need consequence. Apparently, you're like Pastor Gary. You need some consequences to turn you.
And why kids twisted it up by trying to run, and it's been a decade thing, so I won't even say today's kids because it's been around for years.
Yeah.
They'll do multiple things, either run away or want to tell everybody, my parents are bad parents and I want a different parent. Like, the thing that the child will do when
Yeah. That's a kid. That's what kids do. Well, it's sad to see it when you're 19, 20, 30, and you're still acting like a 10-year-old. And it's not love. It's not love to be 30 years old and playing on your mother's heartstrings to take from her or to take from family members to support your bad decisions. So, we love. I love my mama. I love my... Your behavior says different. Oh. Somebody was talking about preaching, and it said, they said, preach the gospel, and if you have to, use words. Preach the gospel, and if you have to, use words. What's that mean? I could say the same thing with love.
By the way, you
With love. Love one another. If you have to, say it. But you should be showing it. Love is an action. We got a lot of people. Oh, my mama loves me. Oh, my daddy loves me. Or I love this one or that. But they won't correct. They won't correct you. They didn't train you. They won't put guardrails in place and guidelines in place to get you to a better place. This is not love. The Bible says God chastens, He corrects those He loves. God is the author of love. God is the one who created love. If you're not doing it God's way, you're not doing it it's not love. Serious. And that's okay. Can I just tell you one of the first things, if you want to change, one of the first things you might have to admit is you don't know. And the second thing is I would advise you define your terms. Define your terms. See, Crystal would say, oh, that's good. What is good? Your definition of good and what you think is good and what I think is good might be two different things. I had some friends named Pumbaa and Timon. And they were like, it's all good. No worries. Yeah. Hakuna Matata. And they were eating grubs and bugs. Saying it was good. Loved it. Oh, you got to try some of these. Mm-hmm. Apparently, they never had filet mignon. Right? Or peach cobbler. Some of Mama's fried chicken and greens. That was good to them. Can I tell you this? We're saying this is love or that's love. You never experienced God's love. If you're calling that love. Or you never experienced good love. Or great love. Or the best love. If that's what you're calling love. A lot of women getting beat. Oh, he loves me. Walking around with a black eye. Saying that their man loves them. Come on. You need to define things by God's terms. By God's terms. Say, we love somebody and then we take from them. Or it's always a one-way street. I had people always come to me, and ask for stuff. And then when you tell them no, what kind of friend are you? Like, What kind of Christian are you? What kind of friend are you? I thought you were supposed to be a Christian. You were supposed to help. I thought you were supposed to be a friend. I'm like, yeah, we've been dealing with this. We've been friends for 4 years, 7 years. And how many times did I come to you and asked you for something? And pitched a fit if you said no. For one thing, I don't come to you. But this street goes two ways. Well, you're just all about the money. Well, apparently I'm not. You're the one asking for money, and when I say no, then you say that I'm greedy or I'm all about the money. This is a two-way street. Love is supposed to be reciprocal. Friendship is supposed to be reciprocal. But apparently, your definition of friend is that you're supposed to be able to call them up and just take and take and take and take and take and never give. And get angry when you don't get. So, let me ask you this. Are you a friend? Are you a Christian? Apparently, I'm supposed to be the one who only behaves like a friend or a Christian. Because you're not. But I'm greedy and I'm all about the money. No, you just don't even know what the term friend means. Because a friend would never play that card. Friend would never say what you're saying. What's coming out of your mouth right now, friend would never say that. A friend wouldn't put that burden on somebody. A true friend probably wouldn't even ask what you're asking right now. You're not a friend, you're a parasite. But you can't see that. Your relationships are parasite and host. And you're the parasite looking for a host. And you suck the life out of them, suck the money out of them, suck the energy, the love. Yeah, they'll give you love. When are they going to get some? It's only if they're doing all the giving, then you're a parasite. Woo! Saying some hard stuff today. You know that all addiction, I told this to a parent who loved their kid and wanted me to give their kid, wondering why I didn't pay their child more money. And I was like, you'd think after supporting their drug habit for 20 years, you would have figured this out, but I guess you're going to have to hear it from me. And they respected me. We had a relationship where they respected me and they figured I knew what I was talking about, because the only time their kid had success was when they were here. And this was an adult and an adult child. When's my kid going to get a raise? And he's like, oh, I was going to, give him this or give him that. I said, you haven't figured out yet that if somebody was a substance abuser, if they could not find a host, if a parasite cannot find a host, they would not continue that behavior more than between two weeks to 2 months. There's only one way. There is only one way that someone can be a substance abuser for more than 2 months.
Somebody's just enabling them.
Yeah. They move from host to host to host. An employer who looks the other way, doesn't do drug tests like they're supposed to, doesn't fire them when they call off and believes their lie because it's convenient. Somebody at home, a spouse or someone that loves them, that puts up with the late nights and the where'd the money go and everything. Somebody who is cool with paying at least 3/4 of the rent, utilities, and everything like that, while this one individual comes into the environment, uses the environment, uses the plates, the water, the food, and everything like that, and only contributes 20%, if that. That's called a host, an enabler. And when you suck one host dry, you know what? You move on to another one. When the relationship becomes so bad and so toxic that people have to push you out of their life, you go to another AA meeting and fill up your little black book with a whole nother list of people you can call. You're going to reinvent yourself every time you switch meetings. And get some new names of some people that maybe you can flop at their house. Or whatever. You're not going to probably keep going to the same church if church is a part of your life. Because you don't want people to know you year after year after year after year like that. Because now they know you. The pattern is obvious. So that randomness that we talked about, that inconsistency, it's required. Randomness and inconsistency is a requirement to be a substance abuser.
What's randomness? Does that mean like a person that do it every blue moon or falsely versus a person that do it every day?
No, randomness means that you don't stay anywhere long enough to where someone can really observe your pattern and that you would have to ever be accountable to them. So you ping pong around like a pinball. Boom, 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 boom. It's just about the time you get to know me and you figure out my lies, I got to move. You can't be a substance abuser without being a liar. And not stay in the same environment. I mean, I don't know how many people are just like, "Hey, Mom, I just want to let you know I just shot up." Oh, no. You're telling her you're nodding off because you had a hard day at work. I don't know where that took. I thought I had a 20 in my wallet, in my purse. Yeah. I don't know. I've seen it all. I've heard it all. I mean, I'm just talking real. I had a guy selling hundreds of dollars worth of like furniture out of the basement of our thrift store. I was like, where's he getting these M&Ms and Mountain Dew? Like, he always, but back then, I mean, this is when we very first started.
No cameras.
You weren't, yeah, too poor to have cameras, but you were allowed to have like $5 on you, as much like $5, but like every day, like just an endless supply of, peanut M&Ms and Mountain Dews. And then one day I was like, hey, I noticed that like there's some big gaps here on the floor and that particular piece of couch and dresser and all that, where'd that go? Oh, I thought you sold that. The guy, I loaded it on this trailer and I'm like, it should have been hundreds of dollars. I mean, let me go check the register. He's like, he didn't pay? Oh my God! I can't believe it! I loaded that whole truck and he didn't pay? And he gets, I'm gonna go run. Maybe if I run down to the corner, I can catch him. He just takes off running. Back all sweaty. I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. And that's not his first. He's been in there several times. I thought he was a good guy. I can't believe he didn't. Are you telling me he didn't? You sure he didn't pay? Ask some of the other people. He didn't. No? What? Oh, he paid. He paid you. He gave you $100 for $1,000 worth of furniture and you loaded it on his trailer? Yeah. And just lie. I mean, elaborate lie. Like crying tears, sweating, running down the street lie. Boy. Oh, let me have my Mountain Dew. I'm out of breath. I need to get my batteries recharged. I mean, my Mountain Dew? That's my money. That's where all this Mountain Dew's been coming. You just selling stuff.
That's funny.
Selling stuff out the back door. Just going right out the back door, going right into Robbie's pocket. He's making more money. He's making more money in the warehouse than we were making at the cash register. What? But lie. You can't do it without lying, justifying, marginalizing, keeping things in the darkness. You can't be a substance abuser without withholding the truth, deceiving people. Oh, I didn't. Misleading people. You can't. You just can't. Yeah, officer, the drugs are under the seat. They're over here, and and I got some shoved up in some orifices too. Just, I'm honest. Yeah. When was the last time that happened? Never. 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 People call. I get drunk calls all the time. Dad, I love you.
Oh boy.
I'm telling you, next week, next week, I'll be there. I'm gonna be in church. Man. You're the best. What are you doing? What are you doing? No. What are you doing? And they say, what are you doing? These conversations. It's like, what? You know, doing good? Oh, yeah, I'm doing great. I tell you what, we're doing this, doing that. And then clean. Oh, I'm clean. Clean is a lie. Clean is compared to the hardest drug that I've ever done, and as bad as I was at my worst, I'm not that. You know, but yeah, do I drink and smoke pot and maybe do a little cocaine? Yeah, but you know what? I mean, I used to be a meth head. I used to be under the bridge smoking crack. I used to, shove needles in my arms and, there's all that. But I'm clean because I'm not that. And it's a lie. No, you've relapsed, You've relapsed 6 times and you're in relapse right now. You're drinking 2 and 3 bottles of wine and falling asleep. You're not clean. But again, we're not going to say that to the people that we have to answer to. We're not going to say that. We're not going to be, so I use a different term. So the truth and the honesty that God wants, write this down. I call it transparency of soul. Now, when you can start practicing the transparency of soul, you're on your way to being honest. How you doing? Oh, I'm fine. That's a lie. In most cases, that's a lie. You're angry, you're tempted, you're right? We're all of these other things other than fine. We're unhappy, we don't like where we are. We had a guy who was a fantastic musician on the worship team and everything like that. He came to us. His drug of choice was cocaine and crack and all. And at first he liked being here, and then after a while it was kind of like one of those things, like he didn't have anywhere else better to go, and he knew that this was probably the best life for him, but and it seemed like every time he went out on his own, he would always relapse, and it was usually fairly quick, like it wasn't like very long. And so he would be around, and he loved God, like genuinely loved God. And I mean, this guy was an awesome worshiper and awesome singer, could play guitar, and just and a sweetheart of a guy. But struggled with addiction and struggled with really just kind of wanting to prove, and so, like, in the back of his mind, I always knew it was like, he was like, when can I be normal? I just want to be able to go out here, get a job, blah, 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 do church, be on a worship team, and all this and that. And it's like, well, you're just not there yet, and maybe your idea of wanting to be normal, maybe God wants you to be in this ministry and help this ministry and serve here and have this be your church, but and so he wrestled with that. He was also skilled electrician and could do different things like that. And so he also struggled with, we would have him change out lights and do different little electrical repairs, and always in the back of his mind he's thinking, I should be getting, $45 an hour for this. But he would never say it. How you doing? Fine. He never would be transparent with all of the stuff that's swirling around in his head, his feelings, his just never. It was always, I'm good, and like, just, he's gonna, It was so funny. So he got to where he had a phone, and he called Pastor Gino. Pastor Gino was my associate back then, and apparently one of his last phone calls was Pastor Gino, and then he was sent on an errand. And the phone, he butt dialed Pastor Gino, like after he pulls out and leaves. And the whole time, like, he's talking to himself. and we're hearing this conversation. Oh, Dad, damn it, these here over here, and I can't believe they let me do this. Just, like, drives away. Okay, bye. We'll see you later. Whatever. And he just, God damn it, I can't leave. I don't know how long I'm going to stay here. Blah, 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 blah. And we're hearing it all. Then, on another occasion, when he got to the point where it was, I can't handle it anymore, he just explodes, and I'm leaving. So he leaves, gets high, then he breaks into my house, because, he had access, to, my, y'all, I don't care, y'all come to my house, everything that I got and everything. He did, He goes down because he had done some work at my house, and so he goes in and takes all these, air conditioning units that I had, and a guitar that I had, and then he gives it to another person. I won't say her name. I love these people, and it still did. Gave it to an Angel with God, I can't even think of her name now. But she would sneak in the back of the thrift store when we had at the time Donna. And at Thanksgiving, I'm like, is that Donna walking with 3 turkeys down the street? Like, she's sneaking in the back, taking turkeys and selling them in the neighborhood. So Isaac takes the guitar, steals them from my house, takes the guitar, takes Donna, talks Donna in to go into the pawn shop. Because he knows, like, I can't pawn this, right? Because, I get in trouble. So he gets an accomplice to go pawn it. Well, I go around to the pawn shop, find my guitar, and they're like, I'm like, who's, because that's my guitar, and you got to file, you have to get your stuff back, you have to file a police report. Those pawn guys are like, prove it. I ain't giving it to you. It doesn't matter. I'm like, that's stolen. Well, you got to file a police report, da-da-da-da. So I do. Well, Donna's not going to get in trouble. He gave it to I didn't know it was stolen. He asked me to take it down here to the pawn shop for her, So she gives up the guy. Now, we love him. Now I'm like, dude, you're hemmed up, you're jammed up. So now I go to court. He's got court. And I'm like, look, you can come back to the program. I mean, you can, instead of going to jail, you can come back to the program. Well, he's happy to be out of jail. He's going to be, he's amongst, people that love him, everything. But some months goes by, and his attitude changes. Now he's ready to leave again, ready to relapse. But the whole time, everything's fine, and he's, fine, everything. And I get him into a counseling session. And I said, man, you got to be, and when we talk about transparency of soul, he's an African American guy. Not that it has anything to do with it, but I got to tell you that because of the next thing that he's going to say. He eventually, in this one moment, after couple years of this back and forth and everything like that, he got transparent. But I had to push him, man. I had to push his button. I had to make him angry because that wasn't his way. He was a gentle guy, And everything here on the surface, it was always gentle, and it was always, he knew kind of how to behave, but inside his soul was anger and unhappiness and regret and just all this stuff, right? I knew it. So I'm like, we're going to have a session here. And I'm like, what's wrong, No, everything's okay. And I just kept pushing him and pushing him and pushing him. He's like, finally, he slams the desk. I'm just your nigger slave. And I sat there nice and calm, and I think, finally, great. Now we're getting somewhere. Now we can talk. Now we can have a real conversation. about how you feel. And what's causing all of this? What's boiling underneath? I'm okay with it. What else are you thinking? How else are you feeling? What's your perspective on this? And I really, really want to, but you know what I'm saying? He had to get to that point where, and can I tell you this? God is okay with your honesty. Some of the most honest prayers that I've had with God were just like that conversation that he was having with me when he slammed that desk and said what he said. And I said, okay, great. Now we're having a heart to heart instead of head to head or just saying something with your mouth, trying to wear the mask. Great, the mask is off. Because I always knew there was something behind the mask. And I loved the guy behind the mask. Didn't like the mask. But now we're getting real. Now we can have a relationship. Right? So it requires transparency of soul. See, and this is why they even talk about dry drunks. You're not being, you know what I'm saying? Like you can do something, but if that's not what you're feeling and thinking, if in your heart and if in your mind you still want to get high and you still want to do all this and that, but yet you're just disciplining yourself to act a certain way. I mean, it's good, but at some point it also has to be your heart. Your heart has to line up with this thing. Doing it for the judge and doing it. This is why people can be locked up for 3 years, get out, and the very next day go get high. And it's like, yeah, you haven't even been. It's not because it's not because you're biologically you're not addicted anymore. Where's the addiction? The addiction's in your heart. It's in your head, and you haven't dealt with it. You haven't been transparent enough. You've just been being forced into a behavior that has nothing to. It's not in alignment with your heart. In your heart, you're like you still have an effort attitude, and you still want to go do you. And you're still broken. And guess what? That's okay to admit. Until you can admit it, until you can get real, you can't get help. This is what in that moment, like this is how even his perception was. He was just, when you're angry now, and the truth, but just stuff doesn't make sense. This is him. After he's like, I'm just a slave. You set me up. Had me steal the guitar, so I would have to come get court ordered back here to be sent back here. Like, okay, I made you steal. Like. No, I'm sorry. I'm not that. I'm not some master puppeteer that caused you to steal and orchestrated this whole thing just so now. Because so here's the other thing. Prior to it, he had never gotten any charges. Like he didn't have a criminal record. And that was also one of the things he wasn't being transparent about. Because he thought because he didn't have any criminal records, he thought he was better than most everybody in the program. And he was on a different level. So he wasn't receiving, you know. It's like, you know, I've never been arrested. Yeah, I might have a drug issue, but I've never been bad enough. So like when he took that guitar and I just had to file a police report to get the guitar back and stuff like that. That was like his first thing. And so then so because before that he wasn't court ordered. So he was like, he would come for 6 months or whatever, relapse, and then he would come back, and it was all on his own because he knew, you know, he wanted to get help, and he loved the Lord. And I mean, he was, like I said, he was a great guy. But when that happened, it was all my fault. I orchestrated it. Now he's looking at now he is court ordered. Now he's, you know, all that. But even that, I was okay. I was okay with that whole conversation. Because it's like, come on, just tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you're feeling. Let's work through this. Can't do it unless you have transparency of soul. And that's real truth. Most of us go through our life and we're just posting up and posturing up and we're presenting a bodyguard. I talk about we've had hurts and pains and traumas in our life when we were young, and so then we create a bodyguard who doesn't let anybody near the real us. That we create this alter ego that is a protector of the real us. You understand? God brought you here not to... I don't want to deal with your bodyguard. My objective is to fire your bodyguard and kill your bodyguard to get to you, because I want to have a conversation with you, the real you. And in most cases, can I be honest with you, is most cases you've lived the life of the bodyguard because you put the kid away when he was 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and you created a bodyguard to protect him, and now you've lived 30 years as the bodyguard, and the real you's been in a closet. And the bodyguard says it's not safe, tells the real you, you can't come out. You'll get hurt. Don't expose yourself. Stay there, shut up. Remain in the dark, remain hidden. I'll handle this. I'll handle it. You stay there. And out comes the bodyguard. And you've been living this life. And there's a kid in the closet that's never had a chance to live. It's like, is it safe to come out yet? Well, the bodyguard's going to lose his job. The bodyguard's created a whole life out here. What happens if the kid emerges? What happens if the child's actually allowed to come out and live? The bodyguard has to go. What if the kid discovers there is life out here and there is love out here and you can navigate and you don't have to be a victim anymore, and God's going to protect you and God wants to be the one to provide for you and look out for you and make sure that you're safe. You don't have to create this alter ego bodyguard to do all of that for you. God is going to be that. And yes, you didn't have a father, and yes, these people that were close to you were abusive and neglected you and did all that. But guess what? That's not God. And now you can have a life in Christ. And you can actually maybe live the life that you were always intended to live. But the bodyguard's got to go. He's always going to look through the eyes and tell you, this is wrong, that's wrong, stay hidden. Don't trust. It's the number one message. You can't trust them. You can't trust that pastor. You can't trust that teacher. You can't trust that policeman. You can't trust that. You can't trust that woman, that girl, that guy. And they're always in a posture, just ready. And we don't let people know what we're thinking. Because that's weakness. They'll take advantage of you. You don't let people know what you're thinking and feeling. That means you're vulnerable. Bodyguard has one job. Make sure you're not vulnerable. Guess what? Until you can become vulnerable, you can't live the life you were intended to live. We got to first see the real person, the one who was created in God's image. Can I just tell you, the person you're looking at in me and the person I'm looking at in you, what we're presenting, that's not, when God said we're made in His image, that's not it. That's someone we made in our image, with our imagination. It's not what God created. In most cases, the person that God created in His image hasn't even had a chance to live yet. They were stuffed in a closet at 6, 7, 8, 9 years of age and never really had an opportunity to explore, discover, what are my gifts? What are my talents? What can I contribute? What would happen if the gentle person, not the angry person out here, the gentle person, the kid that had ideas and was told, shut up, and backhanded. Or the one that could, the only time the adults and the authority found value in me was, if you're, maybe it was, through some sexual touch. And so, I guess my only value, the only thing I have to give or offer is my body. And again, that's a lie. It's an absolute lie. And the innocence of you knows it's a lie, but you have nothing to compare it to except the life that was you're living in this dysfunctional whatever, and so you're trying to make something of something that can't be made sense of. Does that make sense? You're trying to make sense of something that cannot be made sense of. As a child, you have this innocence and and there's a purity and everything, but there's no place for it in the household or the life that you were placed in. So the only thing is that has to be put on the shelf, that has to be put away. We have to do away with that, and you got to become hard. And then we create this other image. this hardened image, this toxified image. And God brought us all here to say, let the kid live. Let the kid out. Let the kid dream. Let the kid hope. Let the kid love. Stop shoving him down, beating him down. Stop being the bodyguard and holding him back. You're in a place. I'm just telling you, you're not in a perfect place. Here, it's not perfect. But it is safe. Okay? You're not going to be harmed. I can say this about people that have flipped me off on the day of their graduation. Maybe angry at me, maybe didn't like their stay here. But I can guarantee you there's not a single soul that has been through here that can ever say they meant to harm me or they harmed me. No. No. Maybe you didn't like it. Maybe you didn't like some of the stuff because there was a challenge or we were asking you to kill the bodyguard and they didn't want to because they were more comfortable living the life that they've been living for 30 years, but never harmed. That one created in the image of God was never harmed and was always said, come out, come out. Come out. We want to see the real you. We know there's a better you in there. Come out. Come out. It's safe. You'll be loved. You're not going to be teased. You're not going to be bullied. You're not going to be hated on. And I'm not saying other individuals. I know that in the home, in the thing, you get 40 people together. Some people are going to make fun of people and everything like that, but it's not going to be allowed to go to the point of harm, like real harm, like what you've experienced in the world. Harm. And there'll be healing. And in fact, sometimes if that happens, even in this dynamic, if it happens, God is probably actually allowing it to happen to say, how will you react? Are you going to go backwards? Or are you going to continue to take a chance? Because out there are meanies and there are bullies. In here, stuff will happen and God will allow stuff to happen because it's under a covering. It's almost like a controlled experiment, okay? You know what I'm saying? It's not going to get out of hand. We have people even that relapse in here, you know? And will there be consequences? Yeah. But you know what generally happens is even when they relapse, even if they're court ordered here, even if they're whatever, they get covered and nothing happens. But guess what? You piss dirty in your probation's cup, something is going to happen. So a lot of times what will happen is it happens here and you're covered. And we say, okay, how can we correct this? In fact, this needs to happen because what just happened is something was revealed that you were trying to hide. You're really actually dealing with something that you didn't. This is, you know, we have all of these meetings, and we probably have at least 2 to 3 meetings a week where you're supposed to speak up and you're supposed to talk about things, but apparently you're not. because you just completely went off on an angry tangent, or you actually relapsed while you were here in the program. And can I tell you, that's probably because you weren't talking in the group meeting. You weren't asking for help when you should have asked for help. So let's go back over this, and next time maybe ask for some help. Maybe even be transparent about the temptations that are coming in the back door of the thrift store, or maybe let people know this person who just came in is not a good person, and I know them and they're from my past and they're just here, and it's a temptation. Or you understand what I'm saying? Like, that's the only way you're going to change and beat this stuff, is you start being honest about all of these things, instead of thinking you're going to hold them and manage them and hide them. No. That's the old way. You're in a place now, and this happens all the time. We say, listen, we just want you to be honest. Just want you to be honest. We can deal with mistakes, but there has to be honesty, because this is a relationship. God's brought you into a relationship. Everything is a relationship. You have a relationship with your boss. You have a relationship with, with a team. You have a relationship with friends. You have a relationship with authorities. It's a certain type of relationship, right? Based upon certain behaviors, right? And so in order for relationships to continue, it has to be built on, everything is built on honesty. A relationship is only as strong as the level of honesty that exists in it. And so this is you're having a and so, but you understand what the role is and the purpose is for the real you, the you that you want to be, the you that you know you can be, the you of the future that has to emerge, has to understand that there has to be truthfulness, transparency of soul, because that's the only way it's going to happen. Because everything else is just smoke and mirrors. Everything else is just a little bit of half-truth, a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and it's not the real you. It's cover-up. And so that's the goal. Is the more, and here's the thing. Eventually, you will start behaving. Listen, your behavior will start lining up with the authentic you. And when your behavior now is the authentic you, there's a power in that. Because there's only one of you. And God created you. And God gifted you. And He put you here to take dominion. Every single one of us have been put here to take dominion. And what is dominion? Dominion is power. Okay? And most of us have not even ever tapped into our God-given power, because we haven't tapped into our authenticity. We're not authentic to who we were created to be. We've been presenting a bodyguard, a substitute. And we've been trying to live, and we've been having to power Him. You understand? When the authentic you gets its power from God. And you start tapping into that, you'll be doing things that no one else can do. because they're not you. There's power in that. But most of us, we just live this false, fake life because we're too afraid to be vulnerable. But until we can become vulnerable, we can't tap into our authentic us, created in the image of God. We got to let that kid that we locked away mature and develop and come into full manhood and womanhood with all of its capabilities and all of its authentic God-given power with hopes and dreams, and let that emerge. That's where you do incredible things. And you leave people scratching their head like, I thought he was the least likely to succeed. She was the biggest screw. She was more jacked up than anybody. They were the black sheep in the family. They were the one that was like out of all. And what? Now? In a matter of 3 years, 2 years, what? Yeah, they're tapping into God, the person that was created in the image of God. And if we're all being honest in this room, y'all haven't touched that. You haven't stepped into that yet. Can I just tell you, that's what you're here for. You ain't here to get no graduation certificate. You ain't here to get clean and sober. And you ain't here to look good in the eyes of the court. I'm just telling you why God brought you here. It's for what I just said. All of that other stuff will happen. All of that other stuff will happen. But if you just get a certificate and you don't tap into the you that God created to and the authentic you, and strip away this bodyguard and this posturing up and posing up and start tapping into the transparency of soul and the authentic you, allowing that kid to live and mature, then you miss the point of coming. You're getting less than what God intended. You can get the certificate. We have people that get the certificate, but they didn't get what God brought them here for. Anyways, God bless you. That's it. See you next week.